Mr. President.
Senator from Montana.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I'm thankful for my colleague from Pennsylvania, Senator Toomey, for his remarks and for his leadership in getting us to this point tonight for this most historic moment in the United States Senate. I spent 28 years in the private sector before I came back to Washington, D.C. In fact, the last election I won before I won election to serve in Congress was student body president of my high school. I spent many years working in businesses, growing businesses, creating jobs, sending a lot of money back to Washington, D.C. in taxes. And you're not going to find a single Republican here that says taxes are bad. What we're saying here is that we are an overtaxed nation. In fact, if I were to ask you where are the most affluent counties in the United States, where are they? Now, you might guess, well, Beverly Hills, perhaps Silicon Valley, New York City. The answer is the most affluent counties in America are suburbs of Washington, D.C. The American people have watched this city increase in power, increase in wealth, and I think this city has forgotten something, that the dollars that are sent here by hardworking Americans does not belong to the government. They belong to the American people. It is their money. And I tell you what, I don't think we realize how much taxes we pay. And we're focused right now on federal income tax, federal corporate taxes. However, imagine you wake up in the morning. If you're like me, my cell phone is now my alarm clock. You grab your cell phone, you reach for it. The first thing I do is maybe look at what inbound emails, maybe look at the Twitter feed. But you realize when you're grabbing that cell phone, on average, a U.S. wireless consumer pays about 17% of that bill you pay for your cell phone is federal, state, and local taxes for that cell phone. That's how the day starts. So then I go and I get dressed. I think about how much sales tax was paid, which most states have, for the clothes that you're wearing. Well, then you might leave your home, walk across your driveway to get in an automobile perhaps, and you realize you're paying significant property tax on that property that you own, if you're a homeowner, and you get in your automobile. Oh, by the way, you've paid a significant tax on that car too. You've paid a sales tax most likely. You may be paying hundreds of dollars a year to put license plates on it. And then you want to drive on to work, and you might want to stop at that coffee shop. Might want to get that nice cup of coffee there to get you going for the day. What do? Well, yeah, you pay a sales tax most likely as you get your cup of coffee. Well, perhaps on the way to work, you need to fill up your gas tank. Now, in Montana, we drive pickups. I can tell you when you fill up your pickup, it costs you a chunk of change. You're paying 18.4 cents per gallon just in federal taxes. And then you pay your state taxes on top of that. That averages or ranges from 12 cents a gallon in Alaska to 58 cents a gallon in Pennsylvania. And then you go to work. I was just speaking with one of my young staffers here tonight. She told me when she got that first paycheck, gets the first job out of college, she called her dad and she says, they've made a mistake. They've screwed up my paycheck. And she talked him through the difference between the gross pay and what you really put in the bank. The dollars of your federal, state, local taxes, Social Security, Medicare. Your day's finished. Perhaps you want to go home and grab something to drink. Whether it's a glass of wine, perhaps a beer, perhaps a soda. Well, the government's there too. You've paid an excise tax somewhere on those beverages. All I'm saying here, it's time to give some of that back. It's time to give some of that back to that single mom in Kalispell, to give it back to that small business owner in Helena, to give it back to the families, the businesses, working class Montanans. You know what? They need a pay raise. So how do we start that? How about right here with this bill tonight? Let's lower tax rates on middle-income Americans. Let's allow them to keep more of their hard-earned dollars. How about we increase the standard deduction? Let's take it from $12,000 to $24,000. How about we eliminate the poverty tax? That's eliminating Obamacare's poverty tax, that Justice Roberts says is a tax that has cost The American people, so far, over $5 billion, 42% of those making less than $25,000 a year, 82% make less than $50,000 a year. That's a poverty tax. We are going to repeal that as part of this bill that we're going to pass tonight. Families need a break. How about we double the child tax credit? We're parents of 4. How about that single mom with 2 children? I think she needs a break. Let's give working moms, working dads with a couple kids an extra couple $1,000s to help make ends meet. And we're reducing the tax burden on small businesses, not corporations. We'll talk about that in a minute, and that's important to do. But these small businesses that are not corporations are paying as much as 40% of their income in federal income taxes. We're going to take that down to less than 30%. What's that do? Creates jobs. It puts pressure on wages, higher wages, because we need to direct these tax cuts to those who provide jobs. By the way, those smaller businesses, 55% of the private sector jobs in this country are from smaller businesses. 2/3 of the new jobs created since the recession of 07-08 are from these smaller businesses. We're targeting significant tax relief for those small businesses. Who are these? These are farmers. These are ranchers. These are locally owned Montana businesses. It could be our community bankers. It could be a baking company. It could be a construction company. I grew up in a construction company. My mom and dad, that was the CEO and the COO of the family business. And in Montana, that's 68% of the jobs in my state. They're getting significant tax relief. So working with my colleagues, we've had some great conversations. We've provided even some additional tax relief for those smaller businesses. We have a historic, once-in-a-generation opportunity today. This only comes every 20 or 30 years. It goes back to 1986, 31 years ago. It's the same year my wife and I were married. We need to put more money back in the hands of American workers. Let's cut their taxes. Let's open the doors for the creation of more high-paying jobs. And we start that by transferring the wealth of this city back to the families and businesses who sent it here in the first place, who keep our country moving forward. You've been hearing a lot of things about this bill. The Washington Post even has claimed Pinocchios for some of these claims that somehow this plan will raise taxes for most working-class families. Look at the facts. That's not true. And let me conclude by saying this. I'm going to quote a president. He says, "It is a paradoxical truth that tax rates are too high today and tax revenues are too low, and the soundest way to raise the revenues in the long term is to cut the rates now. The experience of a number of European countries and Japan have borne this out. The purpose of cutting taxes is not to incur a budget deficit, but to achieve a more prosperous, expanding economy, which can bring a budget surplus." That was John F. Kennedy.
Majority time has expired.
December of 1962. Let's not miss this opportunity that we have now. Thank you.